Hello friends, this video is a little different from what you're used to. Today there won't be news, absurd laws, or disturbing quotes. I decided to try a new format, stories about people who truly impressed me. And the first one is Maurice Tillet, a French professional wrestler, born in Russia, also known by his ring name, the French Angel. Due to a rare condition, he had a very unusual appearance, and according to some, became the inspiration for the character in the book and animated film Shrek.
People take one look at me and go, "Ah, help, run! A big, stupid, ugly ogre." They judge me before they even know me.
Please watch this video until the end and let me know if you think I should keep going with this format. Your opinion, as always, means a lot. Enjoy the video.
Maurice Tillet was born on October 23, 1903, in the Ural region of Russia, into a French family. His mother was a schoolteacher, and his father worked as a railway engineer. Maurice's father died when he was still a young child. As a boy, he had a completely normal appearance, and people nicknamed him the Angel because of his angelic face. In 1917, Maurice and his mother fled Russia due to the outbreak of the revolution and settled in Reims, France. At the age of 17, Maurice began noticing swelling in his feet, hands, and head. By the time he was 19, he was diagnosed with acromegaly, a condition caused by a benign tumor on the pituitary gland, which leads to abnormal bone growth, especially in the facial area. At a height of 170 centimeters, 5 feet 7 inches, Maurice eventually weighed 122 kilograms, about 269 pounds. In his youth, Maurice was a successful rugby player, and in 1926, he was even honored with a handshake from King George V of England for his achievements in sports. He was admitted to one of the oldest universities in Europe, the University of Toulouse, founded back in 1229, where he studied law. However, his condition soon began to progress and significantly affected his vocal cords. Because of the illness, Maurice had to give up his plans for a legal career.
Maybe with a face like this, I could have still become a lawyer, but my voice, which sounds like a donkey's bray, is simply unbearable to listen to. That's why I joined the Navy,
Maurice Tillet said, explaining his decision to leave university in an interview with the Lowell Sunday newspaper in April 1943. Maurice served for 5 years as an engineer in the French Navy. Being a deeply devout Catholic, in 1947 he was granted an audience with Pope Pius XII and became the only wrestler in history to receive such an honor. Largely thanks to his mother, who spent her life teaching foreign languages at the Catholic school Maurice attended, by mid-1942, Tillet spoke Russian, French, Bulgarian, English, and Lithuanian fluently. According to some sources, he learned around 14 languages over the course of his life. Maurice mentions several times himself that he spent his childhood in St. Petersburg. Presumably, he said this only because it was easier for Americans to understand where he was from and where he spent most of his childhood. The well-known wrestler and also Tillet's trainer, Karolis Pojela, once said that while Maurice's father was still alive, he often went on business trips, and his family traveled with him. That's likely why Tillet spent so much time in St. Petersburg. Maurice himself viewed his appearance with philosophy and humor. In his youth, it was much harder for him to adapt to society, but as he got older, he learned how to turn his shortcomings into advantages.
My peers used to call me a monkey, and it upset me a lot. Who would like that? To escape the mockery, I often went down to the docks and spent all my free time by the water. The people who lived there didn't care at all what I looked like.
Maurice said in one interview. One time, he even posed for a paleontology museum, standing next to Neanderthal exhibits, a resemblance that amused him greatly. One of the turning points in the life of this young man, so different from others, was a meeting in February 1937 in Singapore with a professional wrestler and later his mentor and friend, Karolis Pojela, who convinced Maurice to take up wrestling. Shortly after, Tillet and Pojela moved to Paris to begin training. Maurice spent 2 years wrestling in France and England, and in 1939 was forced to move to the United States because of the outbreak of World War II. In 1940, in Boston, Massachusetts, promoter Paul Bowser began promoting Tillet, who was now performing under the name The French Angel, as the main star. He soon started drawing huge crowds to the shows and was given the role of an undefeated champion, a role in which he didn't lose a single match for 19 months straight. In May 1940, Tillet won the Boston version of the World Heavyweight Championship, holding the title until May 1942. In early 1942, he also became the champion of the Montreal version of the World Heavyweight title, and in 1944, he briefly regained the Boston title. As a result of his success, a wave of imitators appeared, wrestlers who adopted the Angel moniker, such as Tony Angelo, the Russian Angel; Jack Rush, the Canadian Angel; Wladek Tulin, the Polish Angel; Stan Pinto, the Czechoslovakian Angel; Clive Welsh, the Irish Angel; Jack Fulk, the Golden Angel; Gil Guerrero, the Black Angel; Jean Noble, the Lady Angel. He also faced off multiple times against Tor Johnson, who was billed as the Swedish Angel. However, over time, the illness continued to progress. By 1945, Tillet's health had started to deteriorate, and he no longer performed as the Unbeatable. Constant headaches, extreme fatigue, and impaired vision, these were just some of the symptoms of acromegaly. And of course, professional wrestling had taken its toll as well. Maurice developed serious heart problems. In his final match, held on February 14, 1953, in Singapore, he lost to Bert Asarati. A year later, on September 4, 1954, Carolus Pogela, his closest friend and promoter, died of cancer. Tillet died of a heart attack the very same day, unable to cope with the loss of his dear companion. The two are buried side by side at the Lithuanian National Cemetery in Justice, Cook County, Illinois, about 20 miles from Chicago. On their shared headstone, an inscription reads, "Friends whom even death couldn't part." When you rewatch Shrek, remember Maurice Tillet. Fierce on the outside, kind on the inside. A man who lived an extraordinary, eventful life, and who will always live on in our memory.
So, what did you think of this format? What struck me the most was Maurice's loyalty. He simply couldn't go on living without his friend. Let me know in the comments, what resonated with you the most in this short story about Maurice Tillet? A special shout out to my Patreon supporters. This channel quite literally runs on your backing. If you'd like to join our Patreon community, it's just $3 a month. It gives you early access to new videos as well as access to exclusive materials you won't find on YouTube, including a deep dive into how Putin first rose to power and the series of suspiciously convenient events that helped pave the way. Also, a shocking video about Karelia, slums, decay, and poverty, all on land Russia once liberated from Finland. 27 minutes of raw, unfiltered footage showing how people survive while billions are funneled into war. And yes, there's a surprise, a brand new host look and a brand new mask. You don't want to miss this. If you prefer one-time support, massive thanks to everyone contributing through Buy Me a Coffee. Even a small donation goes a long way toward keeping this project running smoothly. Right now, I have 52 incredible patrons. Let's hit 55. Not saying goodbye? See you soon.